Pollard, but that was all. He did not know how old he was, what he did for a living, where he had come from, where he was going, or why. He was so startled by his predicament that for a moment his breath caught in his throat. Then his heartbeat soared again, and he let his breath out in a rush. Fireflies in a windstorm. What the hell did that mean? The headache above his right eye corkscrewed across his forehead. He looked frantically left and right, searching for an object or an aspect of the scene that he might recognize, anything, an anchor in a world that was suddenly too strange. When the night offered nothing to reassure him, he turned his quest inward, desperately seeking something familiar in himself. But his own memory was even darker than the passageway around him. Gradually, he became aware that the scent of smoke had faded, replaced by a vague but nauseating smell of rotting garbage in the dumpster. The stench of decomposition filled him with thoughts of death, which seemed to trigger a vague recollection that he was on the run from someone or something that wanted to kill him. When he tried to recall why he was fleeing and from whom, he could not further illuminate that scrap of memory. In fact, it seemed more an awareness based on instinct than a genuine recollection. A puff of wind swirled around him, then calm returned, as if the dead night was trying to come back to life but had managed just one shuddering breath. A single piece of wadded paper, swept up by that insufflation, clicked along the pavement and scraped to a stop against his right shoe. Then another puff. The paper whirled away. Again, the night was dead calm. Something was happening. Frank sensed that these short-lived whiffs of wind had some malevolent source, ominous meaning. Irrationally, he was sure that he was about to be crushed by a great weight. He looked up into the clear sky, at the bleak and empty blackness of space and at the malignant brilliance of the distant stars. If something was descending toward him, Frank could not see it. The night exhaled once more, harder this time. Its breath was sharp and dank. He was wearing running shoes, white athletic socks, jeans, and a long-sleeved blue plaid shirt. He had no jacket, and he could have used one. The air was not frigid, just mildly bracing. But a coldness was in him, too, a gelid fear, and he shivered uncontrollably between the cool caress of the night air and that inner chill. The gust of wind died. Stillness reclaimed the night. Convinced that he had to get out of there, and fast, he pushed away from the dumpster. He staggered along the alley, retreating from the end of the block where the street lamp glowed, into darker realms with no destination in mind, driven only by the sense that this place was dangerous, and that safety, if indeed safety could be found, lay elsewhere. The wind rose again, and with it this time came an eerie whistling, barely audible, like the distant music of a flute made of some strange bone. Within a few steps, as Frank became sure-footed, and as his eyes adapted to the murky night, he arrived at a confluence of passageways. Wrought iron gates in pale stucco arches lay to his left and right. He tried the gate on the left. It was unlocked, secured only by a simple gravity latch. The hinges squeaked, eliciting a wince from Frank, who hoped the sound had not been heard by his pursuer. But now, although no adversary was in sight, Frank had no doubt that he was the object of a chase. He knew it as surely as a hare knew when a fox was in the field. The wind huffed again at his back, and the flute-like music, although barely audible and lacking a discernible melody, was haunting. It pierced him. It sharpened his fear. Beyond the black iron gate, flanked by feathery ferns and bushes, a walkway led between a pair of two-story apartment buildings. Frank followed it into a rectangular courtyard, somewhat revealed by low-wattage security lamps at each end. First-floor apartments opened onto a covered promenade. The doors of the second-floor units were under the tile roof of an iron-railed balcony. Lightless windows faced a swath of grass, beds of azaleas and succulents, and a few palms. A frieze of